Folks, track and field fans, the dream is dead. The dream is dead. Those taps are being played not only for the end of the Olympic track and field action, we now have to wait at least another 3 years, hopefully not 5, for the next Olympic track and field action. But we also will be waiting that long for the next male American individual gold medalist. Our last remaining hope, Cole Hawker, we thought could possibly spring the huge upset like Matthew Centrowitz. Hawker ran great, but did not medal. Jacob Ingebrigtsen has arrived. The Sidney McLaughlin of men's distance running has lived up to the hype and produced a dramatic gold medal, the youngest gold medalist in modern 1,500-meter history. What is next for him? World records? Will he become the GOAT of the 1,500? All of that and more on this show. Sifan Hassan has completed one of the greatest distance performances in Olympic history. She showed the world, hey, it's okay to lose. She picked up her third medal, her second gold of these championships. Fantastic running from Sifan Hassan. And I've already forgotten about it because it was on 3 hours sleep. I was getting calls from the States. I was woken up because Weldon wanted me to watch. What I said was absolutely impossible. Molly M.F. Seidel has proved people like myself wrong. Weldon was offering to bet people $10,000 last night that Molly Seidel would not medal. Thank God no one took us up on it. She has indeed medal. Hats off to her. Will she go down as a GOAT of American distance running, or one of the? Let's put her on the Mount Rushmore of American distance running, like Dina Castor and Joan Benoit-Sanders from the previous Olympic medalist for Team USA. All of that and more. We'll get you ready for the men's marathon, which starts in a couple hours. If you're not a regular listener to the podcast, my name is Robert Johnson. I'm Let's Not co-founder. This is Jonathan Galt, a staff writer, and joined. We're in Tokyo, by the way, joined by our East Coast partner in crime, Weldon Johnson. Guys, I can't believe the Olympics are over, at least the track action. I guess Caleb Rupp could win us a medal, and that would count as an individual goal for USA, but I've had so much fun. It's a blur. I'm upset that it's over all of a sudden. John's feeling pretty good, though, because Josh Kerr did produce. John was going to win like several $1,000s if he won gold, but he did. Barely gets out of the first round. Somehow wins a medal and wins John some money.
Yeah,
so,
we got a call from fake Josh Kerr. I'm not sure if we'll be able to play it on this podcast or if we'll have to wait till next week's podcast. But he was saying, Jonathan, you made this big bet on Josh, and you should have had it both ways. And I can report, in addition to my big bet on Josh to win, I placed a smaller bet on him to medal, and that one paid off. So I made a little profit there. But yeah, should this just be the Jonathan Galt victory lap hour? I mean, I know Rojo likes to take sort of undeserved victory laps, so I'll take maybe an undeserved victory lap as well. I threw out the possibility that Molly Seidel could medal not even 24 hours ago, was laughed at by other members. Robert has a clip vehemently saying Molly Seidel will not medal. Like, he was basically screaming it from the rooftops here. Our commenters, some of them thought I was ludicrous for suggesting this. My main point was I didn't think she would medal, but the Olympic marathon produces unpredictable results. We saw it today. That was the glory of that was what makes the Olympic marathon so intriguing. I also said Josh Kerr could medal, and he did, even though he needed a time qualifier just to make the semis. So I'm just going to pat myself on the back for that, and then go back to being humbled when my marathon predictions turn out to be totally moronic. But yeah,
John, being the more understated twin, it's great because everyone's piling on Rojo for a Seidel prediction. And I'm like skating by. I'm the one who said, you can see it now in the comments, I'm pretty sure somebody said, oh, hey, Seidel's talking big game. She said she's going to go with the leaders. And I said, I'll bet you 10 grand she's not with the leaders at halfway. And, that's just sort of an off-the-cuff comment. I thought, okay, maybe if it's slow and really hot, she could make it up there. But I'm like, these runners are another class ahead of her. And I was just so wrong. I was so shocked. I mean, the race started early. We were having some friends over for dinner. I wasn't expecting big things on this marathon. You guys had gone to sleep. Same thing. Molly Seidel wasn't expecting big things, in all fairness. Afterwards, she said on the USA broadcast, her coach said, "Hey, you need to bring your medal uniform with her," and she's like, "Why would I need to bring that?" So that made me feel a little bit better. But what a day! I mean, starting with that, I guess with you guys at 6 a.m. and it's now 1:35 a.m. there. I don't know how you guys are doing it, and I assume tonight you got to wake up and you're going to watch the marathon, right? I mean, you can't miss the final event of the games. There is some expectation there. So, are you guys going to go on fumes through the night, or are you going to sleep a little bit? Let's see, 1:35. We'll be done at 3.
My plan is sleep. We don't have to go to any venue. We just wake up. Like, it's nice that this race is actually going to be at 7 a.m., which is 6 p.m. Eastern tonight for Americans. Yesterday we were up later recording this podcast. We didn't get done until like 3:30, and then the event started at 6 a.m. It just wasn't really happening. This one, I'm fine. I've been getting like 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep anyway, so I think I'll be all right with that. But I mean, talking about also, just for the record, Molly Seidel, for the record, her name is pronounced Seidel. That is how you say her last name, just to make sure everyone on this podcast knows that. Second, her instructions to America after medaling were to drink a beer. And guess what? That's what we're doing right now. In honor of Molly Seidel, Sapporo beer. How appropriate is that? And Weldon, cheers, Mr. Johnson. One thing that you mentioned, I mean, she was running with the lead pack, but it wasn't just that she was running with the lead pack. She was leading the race. Like, she was the one making things happen at the front of this race, which is just phenomenal when you consider her personal best is 2:25. She's running against Bridget Kosgei, a woman who is literally 10 minutes faster than her in the marathon. It's actually 11 minutes. Her PR is 2:14. Like, all these other women have well under 2:20. Molly's never even come close to that. Now, granted, I think Molly can run in the low 2:20s once she gets in a fast race, but this is just someone who loves the grind of the marathon. She said she wanted to stick her nose in there where it doesn't belong and make people ask themselves, who the hell is this chick, basically. And that's what they did. That's what she was doing. It was just such a gutsy, impressive run to be up there, and she held on for a well-deserved bronze medal.
I'll admit, I have not watched a step of this race. I have not seen a single highlight of this race. Somebody was banging on my door. The one thing I will say is that when someone banged on my door, I swear to God, I was having a dream about Molly Seidel. So I don't know, John, did you yell something through the door about Molly Seidel? About her, because maybe that got into my dream before I woke up. Like, were you banging on the door saying Molly Seidel's going to medal? Wake up, Roja, wake up. So someone's banging on the door. I wake up. I'm like, what's going on? John's like, Weldon's calling from the States. He says, you got to get up to watch Molly Seidel. So I fumble for the remote and I try to get it on the Japanese TV. It was not on our television. I thought they were marathon crazy here. I went through all the channels, nothing. And then I couldn't get the VPN in. So then by the time I got into Jonathan's room, the race was over. But I love this quote and just want to give it out to Miss Seidel and to Miss Fryricks.
I'm going to lose my mind.
Who cares?
Seidel, Frericks, it matters, Robert.
It doesn't matter, John.
It does matter.
You don't know how to speak in the first place. You speak with a weird British accent. I don't yell at Max. I can say however she wants. It's Ollie Whore, O-L-L-I-E, O-L-I-E. Sometimes he spells it one way. Sometimes he spells it the other way. It's just like sometimes someone's a man and sometimes a woman. It's a fluid world we live in, John.
Robert, would you like if I just started calling you Robert every day and just mispronouncing your name?
Some people call me Rob.
These athletes, they're professional athletes. They deserve to. It's not that hard. This is not tough pronunciation. Molly Seidel, Courtney Frericks. It's not Frericks. It's not Seidel. Okay? Jeez.
It is, I must say, until today, I never knew her name was Seidel, John. You've never corrected us. It's never it's never been mentioned. I swear in all the broadcasts they say Seidel.
Well, they're wrong.
So, no, it's great. But she was, the big picture for me is...
Wait, can I just read this quote? Seeing my friend Courtney Frericks win silver the other day was an inspiration. Seeing her do that and race aggressively was truthfully what gave me the strength to not be afraid to stick my nose in it. I try not to have too many expectations. It is just go out, stick your nose where it doesn't belong, and try and make some people angry. My goal today was just to go in and for people to think, who the hell is this girl? Unreal. Amazing.
I mean, that's definitely what happened. I couldn't believe it. And in retrospect, I want to read some of the posts. A guy a couple weeks ago said, I think she can medal. But I'd slotted Seidel in with, I don't know, essentially the other American. Well, I don't know. Robert was praising Sally Kipyego. But I think she broke through and shows some of the stereotypes in her mind are often wrong. And even though her PB was 10 minutes off, I mean, nobody's close to Bridget Koskai's PB. But take 5 minutes off her PB, and there's still, I think, 10 women in the field faster than her. But she won the American Olympic trials in her first marathon.
She did not win it.
I mean, she got second. She made the team, excuse me. And very difficult course. And you're like, okay, maybe the American women are off. But the American women are pretty good at the marathon. But then I guess she runs 2:25 in London. That's really not that good, but her buildup wasn't great. But I think there were some signs there that she's essentially a natural-born marathoner. But she didn't do really anything to indicate that this type of performance was there. I still think she's made for the marathon. She's a grinder. The heat and stuff helped her, but you don't fluke your way to a bronze medal at the Olympics. I think sometimes at Worlds, maybe it's a little bit, the depth isn't there. There's no asterisk. There's nothing. This was just so fabulous of a performance.
Absolutely. And I do want to give credit. I mean, we need to mention the winner of this race, the Olympic marathon champion, Perez Jepchirchir. Great performance by her. She ends Bridget Kosgei's 3-year winning streak. Bridget Kosgei, a very respectable silver medal. I mean, she was the favorite. Maybe she's a little disappointed by that, but silver medal in the Olympic marathon, you can't be too disappointed with that. And I just want to say it's very interesting how much this event has changed. One thing with the 1 year delay due to the pandemic, one thing I'm curious about is I wonder if Molly Seidel would have medaled had it been a year earlier, because one of the reasons she wanted to run that full marathon last year in London is to get more experience over the marathon distance. And Weldon, you said, she didn't have a great build-up. You didn't think the time was that great. Well, it was terrible conditions, remember. She got sixth against a good field in London, ran 2:25 on terrible weather, and she basically they got in the race. And they're like, well, here's a full marathon. You can either run this one an abbreviated build-up or not run one at all. She ran it. I'm sure that experience helped her, and now she's the Olympic bronze medalist. And then talking about Jepchirchir, the winner, this time a year ago, she was not even on the Kenyan team. They named their team back in January 2020. It was Vivian Cheriot, Ruth Chepngetich, and Bridget Kosgei. And then Perez Jepchirchir comes back. She has a terrific fall, runs 65 minutes in the half twice, wins the world half, wins Valencia in 2:17. Essentially said, look, basically like forced Athletics Kenya's hand. She was so good, they had to bump off Vivian Cheriot and put her on the team. And now she's the Olympic champion. She would not even have been in Tokyo or Sapporo had this race taken place a year ago.
Yeah, I mean, great run by them. But that's the thing. They are so world-class. And we've had 2 American medals before in the marathon by the women. Joan Benoit, at the time, she was the second fastest marathoner of all time and the American record holder. It's not unexpected when she gets a medal. People act like Dina's medal was a big surprise. Dina was the 7th fastest marathoner at all time, an American record holder, when she got the medal. Molly Seidel was the 299th fastest marathoner of all time. It's actually better than, well, I don't know. If you asked me to guess where she would have been, of all time. And she gets the bronze medal, competing against like 2 superstars. There's a lot more depth in marathoning now as we go on. So it's just, there aren't words that I think put this performance in perspective. It's what I love about the Olympics. It's what I think we love about sport. Just someone believing in themselves. I mean, she had a long road to get here. The other thing we kind of noted, I think intern Carl pointed this out, she almost didn't run the Olympic marathon trials. I mean, she was slated to skip it and make her marathon debut in Houston, which was like a month before the trials. She's just like, I'm going to do a marathon. I'm not going to be ready for the trials. She's coming back from an eating disorder. And instead, she qualified with a half marathon that went better than expected. And like, hey, what do you have to lose? Go run the trials, try to get a top 10 or something. But when she goes and does that and makes the team, I think that shows obviously the talent and grit and stuff she has that we saw yesterday.
Well, yeah,
today.
You talk about the talent, Weldon. That's an interesting thing. One of our observations in our race recap was Molly Seidel. Remember, she broke the Foot Locker curse. She won Foot Lockers in 2011. She became the first Foot Locker champion to win NCAA cross country on the women's side. And now she's just the second Foot Locker champion on the women's side to become an Olympian. And she's the first one ever to medal at the Olympics. So she's always been quite talented, but actually getting to this point, it hasn't been easy for her. And like you said, it was a humongous shock that she was even on the Olympic team. At the going into the Olympic trials, I did not consider her a legitimate contender to make the team. It was a very loaded field, and Seidel basically just had that 70-minute half marathon going in. I kind of viewed her more as a 10K runner. And now, like you said, we're discovering the marathon is her best event. She's put that talent to very good use. And it's very interesting. One of our commenters in the chat here pointed out someone at Saucony is getting fired for this. And this is kind of interesting. Saucony was her sponsor. That was her sponsor when she makes the Olympic team. And they did not retain her at the end of 2020. She decided to sign a new deal with Puma. And now Puma has an Olympic medalist. She wore the Puma shoes to get the Olympic medal. I mean, seems like a pretty decent investment from Puma's side.
Well, obviously now that she has a medal, it makes sense and she'll get bonuses and stuff. But I just don't get this. Somebody at Saucony should be fired. It's about how much you want to pay. Why doesn't Saucony go sign? I can throw someone out there, Michael Norman. Oh, oops. Or why doesn't Saucony? Why didn't they have Usain Bolt? You can go get Usain Bolt. Just pay him $50 million. At some point, it's just not like, oh, I want every runner. I mean, it's like it's very simplistic and one-dimensional thinking to say.
Of course, it's simplistic. It's absurd. What, are people going to run out and go buy Puma shoes right now? Puma's going to, oh my God, everyone's going to go buy a Puma shoe because Molly said I was running for them? No. It's like, Sydney McLaughlin, is she worth $1.75 million a year, which is what someone told me she makes? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But, Nike can't sign everybody.
Yeah. All right. That's a fair enough point. Anything else on the women's marathon?
Yes. Yeah. I would say this. We got to remember that we should never discount anyone in the Olympic marathon. At some level, you do. It's just, well, the thing is, there's so many Africans now that are moving to other countries. But I've always kind of thought in some ways it might be, if you get third in a major, nobody freaks out. But if you get third in the Olympics, everybody freaks out. It's just kind of weird how we define success in this world. But you should, if it's this hot in the marathon, I mean, I bet these Ethiopian women have never run in humidity like this in their entire life. Like not once. They weren't doing hot weather camps. I'm not making excuses. She still beat them all. But, it's interesting. So if you think of 3 Ethiopian and 3 Kenyans you got to beat, a couple of them have an off day, whatever. I'm in my picks for the prediction contest this night. I didn't pick Ko's guy, but I didn't pick Chepchirchir either. I picked the other Kenyan because she had good results this year. And I know she had done well in the past in some hot weather marathons in Doha. So I was like, I'm not going to take a total wild card. It would make me worried that she had not raced this year. But, I'm not sure what happened to the other Ethiopians. 2 DNFs. And then Dereje was right behind Seidel, 45 seconds. So amazing stuff. I did read the thread. Well, I haven't seen the race. Grown men said they were crying on Let's Run. So it was really inspiring. So Molly, I'm glad you proved me wrong. It'll be interesting to see though moving forward. In my mind, I think this autumn, as hot and as impressive these conditions were, this definitely makes her a low 220 person. Do I expect her to contend for marathon wins. No, it's just like Des Linden. I mean, Des Linden, was contending every once in a while. Here he came very close to Boston win one year before she actually got it, but she needed some help to win that Boston race. So I think she's going to be competitive. Do I think she's going to start winning majors? No. But I hope she can have, as a fan, all you want is these moments where she's taking it to the field. I mean, Ryan Hall never won a major, but I viewed him as a world-class marathoner. When he was in the lead at London in the 30K, it made getting up at 3 a.m. to watch it. So if Molly Seidel can keep doing things like this, where she's taking it to the Africans, leading the race, dictating the pace, even if she comes up short, I'm going to be so thrilled by it.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you to Weldon for, he called Robert, I think, and Robert left his iPad in my room last night. If it wasn't for that vibrating iPad, I would not have woken up. But he called when it was down to 4 women, or down to 5 women. Then I tried to turn, like Robert said, I tried to turn on the TV. It's non-Japanese TV. I go to NBC Olympics. This is ridiculous. NBC had like 2 or 3 commercial breaks during the last 4 or 5 miles of the marathon. I just find that pretty absurd. Like, that's the most dramatic part of the race. Don't take all the commercial breaks you want, but like take a bunch during the first half. The end of the marathon, you should show the last like 5K uninterrupted, which they didn't do. But I want to talk about just how this race played out towards the end, because we know that Seidel was pushing the pace, but then when the Kenyans took off, Jepchirchir and Bridget Kosgei, it was down to 2 women battling out for the silver medal, Seidel and Lona Solpeter of Israel. And essentially when they go to break, Solpeter is a few strides ahead of Seidel. I'm like, man, Solpeter is coming in. She won Tokyo last year. She's run like 2:17. You kind of think, okay, this is a brave run by Molly, but head to head against Solpeter, I wouldn't be betting on her. And then the next clip I see is Solpeter is just walking on the course. And I'm like, she was in the medal position. And I don't know if it was just that Molly passed her, and as soon as that happened, she just kind of knew, I don't have it. Solpeter did end up finishing, but it was like, half an hour later or something like that. But it's just wild to me that you can go from being in bronze medal position and actually even duking it out for a win, and then within a couple minutes, you're just walking on the course. I'm interested to know what happened there, but it was pretty wild how Seidel found herself in the bronze medal position.
Yeah, it was crazy because I'm watching kind of in disbelief, and I'm like, okay, pack of 9, she's still up there. Pack of 5, she's still up there. And I'm like, okay, now like this is like some fluke. She's not like going for like a 15-mile time trial. Like she's got a chance. And then it gets to 4, and then she gets dropped, and I'm like, okay, it's over. Like, because generally in a marathon, once people pull away from you, it's over. It's just how it works. You're done. And I had maybe they went to break, but I also had some issues with my TV. I come back and I'm like, oh my God, she's going to get the bronze medal. And I went back and rewatched it. There on the international feed, they don't have commercials. And the crazy thing is, also we make judgments from just like a few feet. The 2 Kenyans got like maybe they were less than 5 seconds ahead, essentially at this point. And Salpeter had a gap on Seidel as well. Seidel. And then kind of not quickly, but Seidel caught back up to her. And then like right after that, she just starts walking. She was just done. I mean, I think she probably caught back up because Salpeter was slowing down a little bit. And she probably just was like overheated. I mean, I think the heat can affect you so quickly. And that's what that showed. I think we saw that a little bit in the 10K, which we can get to maybe next. But Gide, just the last mile, couldn't push the pace anymore. I think she just stopped. I think she's like, I'm not going to make it to the finish line. And I think that's what we saw in the marathon. It was crazy. But huge props to her for finishing. I mean, people were saying the same thing. Like, wow, like she's still gutted it out and decided to finish. Because I thought, she just quit. Like she couldn't win, so she quit. And like then later I saw she finished, and I'm like, okay, it's not what I was thinking. And I was thinking maybe she's trying to save it for a payday or something.
No, she'll always be able to say she finished the Olympic marathon. Like to say, okay, I went to the Olympics and I dropped out. Some athletes, I think, just view that as a stain. And yeah, credit to her for finishing. I hope that there were no long-lasting heat-related issues.
Let's briefly talk about the men's marathon, because a lot of the people listening to this podcast, the marathon will be over, right, by the time they start listening to it. But Brandon makes a good point here on YouTube. I think this is a great sign for Galen Rupp. Galen Rupp said he wanted the hottest conditions ever. He wanted to be uncomfortable. I think it's going to be hot. They're actually running an hour later. Shit, if Molly can do it, Rupp can definitely do it. We said John was telling another journalist he was thinking about betting for Rupp to medal. This guy seems shocked by it. I was like, why are you shocked? I'm debating whether he's going to win the damn thing or not. But this journalist did say something. He started thinking about it some more, and he's like, well, it gets hot. He's ready for the heat. The Africans aren't. A lot of the agents, we've heard some of the stuff that these Ethiopians guys are in really good shape, but they're not sure how they can handle the heat. Lalisa DeCisa is experienced in the heat, but Katata is not. Just the humidity is totally different than the hot, than what they're used to. So if it gets hot, you're out of the contention for the win. You're an Ethiopian. Do you kill yourself and battle Rupp for the bronze, or do you sort of mail it in and get ready for a fall payday? That was the thought here, and I thought it was a good point.
Well, Robert, we have not discussed the biggest scuttlebutt from the mixed zone.
Well, I think we mentioned it in last week's show.
The vibes out of Kenya right now, not great about Kipchoge. Now, look, he could go. He's the greatest marathoner of all time. He could go out and stomp everyone, but we've heard some rumblings from some people who are close to the camp that he's not training. His training hasn't gone as amazing as usual. We asked one of the Kenyan journalists in the mixed zone today. We're like, "What do you think about Elliot?" And she basically just refused to answer. Like she did not. She was like, didn't give us an answer, which I didn't think was good, because if she was expected him to win, I think she would have told us. So I don't know. I mean, look, I don't want to. Obviously, I'm not going to discount the GOAT, but the betting odds I think I've seen for him are like minus 200. I mean, that's just no way is he that big a favorite. He lost his last major marathon. He went out and ran like 2:04 in that air strip earlier this year. Absolutely, he could win. I guess he's the tentative favorite, but I don't like what I'm hearing out of the rumblings from the mixed zone.
Can you guys give a little more info on who your source is? Like, just hint, like what sort of, I don't know, some random guy on Twitter or some random journalist?
No.
They have
no.
Is it
one
an
is
agent, coach?
Kenyan journalist who covers the track and field, and then the other one, well, this was secondhand, but this is someone who spends time in the Kipchoge camp and is sort of familiar with their workouts and that sort of thing.
Wow. I wonder if Rupp's listening. Rupp's asleep right now, right? So
do you guys realize
he better be?
Alberto's out there. We know Alberto probably listens. Alberto, we give you permission. Make connection with Rupp as a friend and just say, hey, I heard this on a podcast. You're not giving coaching advice. Just tell him, what if Rupp saves today with a gold medal? In one point of order, Robert talked about Des Linden. He did not describe her properly. Des Linden, Let'sRun.com, supporters club member. You can become one too. She's the club record holder at 50K. Our 50K record is the same as the American record, by the way.
World record.
Oh, world record. We have a world record in our club. We need to print that up. Join the supporters club. You get insider access, extra podcast. You can save right now 20% on running shoes. That's not always the case, but you join today, buy a pair of shoes, save like $30 right off the bat. Go to Let'sRun.com/subscribe. Also, if you want some great electrolytes, go to drinklmnt.com/let'srun. Get a free sample pack now. But you got to sign up. You got to join. Thanks to the tons of people who've been signing up during the Olympics. We appreciate it. And I know it's been a grind, everybody. And there's a comment here. Well, let me try to find it.
By the way,
we got a comment here by Tariq Fullerton. Thanks for the amazing preview, post-race analysis, and everything that you guys do to foster conversations and really help us to truly enjoy the performances even after they have been completed. Great panel team. Clap, clap, clap. 100%. Thank you, Tariq. He's got his vaccine too, John. And there was also, I woke up this morning and it said an open thread to Jonathan Weldon and Robert. And I'm like, oh no, here we go. Here we go. but it was full of praise. They're like, look, you guys have analysis that no one has. You guys recap these races. You spend a lot of time. Appreciate it. So,
I almost did
I
yell
know
at
it's a
Jonathan
grind,
today.
guys. You guys have done a good job. Intern Carl, if you're listening, we've almost made it. Maybe we should just save all the congratulations for tomorrow's show.
I think we should save it. I almost did lose to John. I do try to talk to every obscure person. I mean, it's not even obscure. But John, it drives me nuts. John will talk to someone. I looked today. He talked to Cole Hawker, and what does he do? Instead of going to talk to like the 5th placer in the Olympics, he runs to Twitter to put it up on Twitter. I don't like information going on Twitter. I want it going on the message board. He's like running onto Twitter before he even tells me he's on Twitter, and like famous people are coming by, and no one bothers to interview them. I ran to an area where you're not supposed to interview. So to interview this guy, McCall, I didn't even realize he was 5th in the Olympics. I didn't realize he was 4th at the 97 Worlds. He ran a 4-second PB here. And I wanted to talk to him. I just wanted to talk. I saw this guy spoke good English. He was talking to somebody at the end of the mix zone in English. So I ran after the mix zone because I wanted to talk to him. And I'll ask the questions. I feel good. Like when the guy, to all you a-holes on the internet who say I'm not a journalist, at least I know how to ask the right questions, because the LA Times guy today came up to me and just said, hey, I want to compliment you for what you did yesterday. Keep that up. It's good work. And I said, what are you talking about? He's like, that crap about Paul Chalima. I can't believe he yelled at you. I didn't even ask him a question. I just told him that the Kenyan thought he should be DQ'd, and Paul accused me of like bringing up an inappropriate conversation. But with Katir, I just asked this Mecco guy. I said, hey, what do you think of Katir's improvement? What would you say to the people who think his improvement is too big? And he went there. He took the question. He said the improvement is crazy, blah, blah, blah. It was really interesting. It's all in the recap. Read it now because we have insight from probably at least half of the people. I've got the Luxembourg national record holder. This guy was a 147 guy at Georgia. He got 7th at the SECs. Now he's in the Olympic final.
All right. Yeah, Robert, I will credit you. Robert does ask great questions. He's a good interviewer. I credit you for that. He's falsifying what happens. I talked to Cole Hawker, and then I see, oh, no one else is coming by for a little while. I'm going to tweet out a nugget to our followers and keep them involved. I imagine if you're listening to this podcast right now, you might follow me on Twitter, and you might want to know just, a nugget of me, what I've gained from being at the Olympics. And then I'll expand on it in our article and our podcast. And the other thing is, if you've been listening to our podcast this week, Robert has a rule. If someone breaks a national record, he wants to talk to them in the mix zone. And today was the prime example of this. It was fantastic. It was the 1500 meter final. Robert sees a guy from Luxembourg in the final, and he's talking to me. He's like, wait, what's his results? How did he do? And I'm like, well, he broke the national record in the semifinal. And then that's all Robert had to hear. He's like, national record? Luxembourg? He goes up. He is talking to this guy, no lie, at least 10 minutes Robert was in front of them. Maybe some of the interview was conducted in a different language, but Robert is just standing there for a guy who finished 12th in the Olympic final, Charles Grethen. But Robert has got the exclusive, and I'm sure he put in
It wasn't exclusive, and I actually got really annoyed. He was talking to this other guy in some damn other language I didn't understand. So I was literally sitting there looking at this guy's phone as it counted up to 6.5 minutes, but nothing else was going on. So I kept waiting. But it was kind of an interesting interview, and actually in doing some research on this guy after the fact, I'm stunned. I think we should shut the website down. Is everybody sitting down? Those of you that are listening as you're driving your car into the podcast, please be sitting down, because I didn't put this in the article, what I'm about to say, because I thought it was too depressing and we should stop being fans of the sport. But I asked Mr. Grethen, I said, hey, are you the first guy from Luxembourg to make the 1500 final? He said, actually, I'm not.
1952, Josie Barthel upset Roger Bannister, Olympic champion.
Wow, see? He said, I'm actually the second. And the first guy is very famous. He's the only Luxembourg athlete to ever win a gold medal in the Olympics in any sport. 1952, this guy John says. So I'm Googling this guy in the internet tonight, and I go to the Wikipedia page, and like footnote number 3 is he was accused of being on drugs in the 1952 Olympics. So we've always assumed everyone in the 60s and 70s, 60s was clean, Bannister? No. And now apparently it was discounted, but apparently people were experimenting with amphetamines because they took amphetamines in World War II to get them ready for battle. So why not just take it up? There was no rules against it. So if he did do it, it wasn't illegal, but kind of crazy to think. Wow. There it is, John. Someone called John a weird creep last night. Right now, someone is saying on YouTube, Robert doesn't understand how social media works in 2021. JJ is the GOAT LR employee. I did at one point want to change the Let's Run motto to from where your dreams become reality to we don't tweet. I thought Twitter was stupid. Wow, there we go. This is the guy that Scott Dance used to be a very important person of the Baltimore Sun. I forgot where he's moved to now, John, but right here he's saying,
that's a totally fair comment. Yeah, for those listening on the podcast, totally normal for an editor to be mad at a reporter for tweeting news before posting on the website. So I guess you are real journalists after all. I mean, some of the stuff I tweet, I think some of it's not like breaking news. It's just sort of, hey, this is a comment I found interesting. But yeah, it's stuff that goes in our article. So I think it's two different approaches. I kind of like to keep people informed on Twitter. Robert prefers the articles, but
okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you're on the clock, John, doing stuff that's just interesting. I mean, a lot of people want to do that at work. They're not allowed to.
Like I said, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If I am providing information and they see Jonathan Goltz on Twitter, he's a Let's Run reporter, that raises the profile of the site. That gets more people to read my articles. It's good for everyone.
Now, I also noticed there's different sort of like priorities because intern Carl was right here in the comments. He was tweeting out last night during the marathon. I think he get a lot of followers, and some people are just that's where they get all their news is Twitter. They don't go anywhere else. So it's like, and then people all into their follower accounts. It's just a different thing. But we like people to come to actual letsrun.com. All right, guys, is there anything else to say? We've talked about the marathon forever. We've kind of touched about the
Okay, let's
10K.
go to the other events. People don't have time to listen to the whole show. People are listening to the podcast. Let's go to the 1500 first, and then we'll go to the women's 10 because I think more people want to talk about the 1500.
Yeah, it's shocking to me. This is letsrun.com. This is the Olympic men's 1500 meter final. It is like the Super Bowl of our sport. Robert and I were so excited for this race. We haven't even talked about it yet.
Yeah,
I mean,
but Weldon nailed it. Weldon nailed it. He said it on the podcast the last two nights. The best part about going to the casino is when you get in when you step out of the car and get in the damn parking lot. It's the anticipation. I mean, I know there was multiple people that broke the Olympic record. There was national records. There was the first British guy to medal in a long time. But actually watching this race, it didn't live up to the hype to me. I was kind of disappointed in it, and I hate to say that. I mean, we have the Wonder Kid live up to the fame, but it was like a time trial. It wasn't interesting. Bring me back to 350. Bring me back to 350 slow jog fest.
This is actually an interesting point, Robert, because this was the polar opposite of what we had in 2016 with Matthew Centuritz winning in 350. Jakob Ingebrigtsen, 328, Olympic record, European record, an incredible performance in the Olympic final. But yes, it was kind of a time trial. And I've seen differing opinions. Some people are like, thank God there was real racing this time. And I'm so happy this is how the Olympics turned out. And it wasn't some big sit and kick. But part of me is like, which race am I going to remember more? I think I'm going to remember Centro's more. And okay, that's because he's American. He won the gold. But that was just so nerve-wracking. And the drama of the 1500 in these championship finals, part of it is based on when are they going to kick, who is going to make the move, who's going to first, be the first to move, and all this sort of stuff. We didn't really see this. This race went pretty much as we expected. Ingebrigtsen took the first lap. I guess I didn't totally see that coming. But then Chariot forced a fast pace, tried to break everyone, couldn't break it. He broke everyone but Ingebrigtsen, and Ingebrigtsen won the gold. I mean, this is not totally unpredictable.
No, this is
like the Centro one.
This is exactly what we predicted. I predicted before the Olympics started. I said, "What do we think is going to happen?" I said, "Well, what should happen is people are going to be." I thought more people would be close to Chariot with 200 meters to go. I said, "Look, it's going to be a fast pace. They're going to be on his shoulder, and then Andy's going to do what he always does: pull away." And instead, you could tell with 150 to go, he wasn't. I thought with 200 meters to go, he was screwed. Wasn't going to medal. He fought hard and didn't get past it. Like 120 to go, held on for the silver, which was good, but. What's crazy here is I don't think we're necessarily appreciating this. I mean, El Garouche in the height of the EPO era, John, didn't try to front run these races. Kiprop didn't try to front run these races.
El Garouche had a rabbit
not
who
alone.
Just took him out.
He did it alone here. So I really was impressed. I mean, the gun goes off, and first of all, I was pissed off. I was like, why in the F is, how do they pick the lanes? Why in the F is, they shouldn't do this. This is totally wrong. They needed to have a lane placement. They should do it like the Kentucky Derby. You get to pick your lane when you're the fastest person. Why was Chariot in lane 1? It was disgraceful. I'm like, he's going to get stompled at the start. Instead of even trying to fight, I thought he was going to have to run out in like 26. He just went to the back. And John's like, what's going on? And he got behind Ingebrigtsen. I knew Ingebrigtsen was going to even pace that first lap. And Chariot was finding him. I thought, wow. I thought it might be slow for a little bit. I'm like, what if he doesn't take it and just tries to sit on Ingebrigtsen? No one's expecting this. But instead, he ended up taking it and made a hard move. It was interesting. Both Chariot and the fourth place Kenyan said they picked up hamstring injuries. I don't know what it means. Kenyan will always say, I pulled a muscle, I pulled a tendon. It's not specific. Like, they never say like, well, he actually said hamstring. But the fourth placer was like, oh, I'm happy I hurt my tendon or something in this other round. But he ran a 3:29 PR. Was happy to get him to 3:30. And then Chariot also ran 3:29:01. Yeah. So it wasn't like he ran bad. And I was like asking John, why would this race be different than Monaco? And that was one of the questions. And Gert Ingebrigtsen, we had a great 10-minute talk with him. I said, why was this different than Monaco? He's like, oh, Monaco. He's like, he was just getting out of bed. He'd been on antibiotics. He was like bedridden. He had like gotten out for one day and ran that race. He's like, so let's talk about what we learned from talking to the father, because there's a lot of things probably not even in the article that he said.
He said world record incoming. He thinks 3:25 is possible if they go for it within the next couple of years. He said one thing I thought was interesting, that he was asked basically, how can Jacob get any better? And he said, I think his endurance is maxed out at this point. Robert asked him how many miles he runs per week. He wouldn't give us a specific answer. He just said a lot. But he does still think Jacob can improve his speed, and that's how he thinks he's going to get faster. And then the other thing, they want the 15.5 double. I mean, remember, they tried it in Doha. They didn't do it at the Olympics. The schedule was a little more difficult. But he said next year in Eugene, we're doing it at the World Championships. I looked at the schedule. It's very doable. The 1,500 is the first half of the meet. The 5K is the second half of the meet. Last guy to do that double and win both goals, Bernard Lagat, 2007. So I'm excited to see him in that and see how much better he can get in the 5K. But yeah, they're not done.
What was really interesting about the 5,000, I said, Gert, was it hard to pick the 1,500 over the 5? He said, no, not at all. I said, why? And he said, Jacob's a young boy, basically. I mean, remember, they did do both 2 years ago, but he didn't act like it was a tough call at all. And he says, he doesn't like to hurt. Is that what he said, right? It was hurt, right?
Yes.
I was like, what? And then we mentioned this to Jacob. We're like, in the press conference, we're like, your dad says you don't like to hurt. He's like, yeah, nobody likes to hurt, right? But sometimes in training you have to hurt. But it's basically like, this guy's human. He doesn't like to, he's like, and Jacob's like, the nice thing is 3:30 used to really hurt. Now it doesn't hurt. Now 3:28 hurts. And hopefully in a couple of years, 3:28 doesn't hurt. And I can run 3:26, 3:25. So I said, Jacob, I did a bad job on this question. When you ask someone a leading question, I said, Jacob, seems like your older one brother was 5th in the Olympics. Look up the brother, how old he was when he was 5th in the Olympics.
21.
His oldest brother, none of his oldest brother. One brother was 5th in the Olympics in 2012 at 21. Philip, the middle brother, was 3rd in the world in 2017. And this guy's first. I said, it feels like it was destined. I mean, these people are on national TV. They're like the Kardashians of Norway. I said, at 20, he lived up to promise. Like, what's next? Do you want to set world records and go down in the history as the greatest 1,500 meter of all time? And he just said, yes. So he wants both, the world record and the GOAT status. But, when you think about this, I think in running, we often think it's about potential. It's about being in the parking lot of the casino. We're always wondering, what can somebody do? And then when they achieve it, we take it for granted. Like, oh, Seidel was the high school champion, the college champion. Very rarely does that actually happen. Same thing here. And I made this analogy in the elevator down to the mix zone. And then we got to the mix zone, and our friend Cathal Dennehy of Ireland, am I saying his name right, John? I don't know to say his damn name.
You're not, but it's all right.
So if I mispronounce the journalist's name, it's fine.
Well, he has a difficult name. It's not like
if I say Seidel instead of Seidel, which she was on ESPN for 10 years. Even Notre Dame didn't say her name is Seidel. Anyways, he said the same thing as me. it's like Ingebrigtsen's win here reminds me of Sydney McLaughlin's in the women's meet. Like teen phenom, amazing. They're going to be great. And holy shit, they actually are great.
It's awesome, Robert. I was there, 2017, the youngest sub 4 minute miler in history. Jacob Ingebrigtsen, Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He goes by both. See, that one I think I'm okay with.
I asked one of the journalists about it, and I forgot what they said. See, John can
no,
butcher
but
his name.
I've
John
heard him referred to as both, and I think
well,
it's fine.
I've heard her referred to as both too.
Well, she has a correct pronunciation. Anyway, he broke 4 minutes as a 16-year-old in 2017, and I remember in the mix zone there, Mo Farah was running in the 5K.
Wait, where was it?
This was at the pre-classic. And Mo Farah was awesome. He's like, did he do it? You know, he was asking about it. And he's like, he couldn't believe it. He's like a 16-year-old breaking 4. And you think like if you're the youngest person ever to break 4 minutes in the mile, you would kind of think like, okay, that person must be obscenely talented. One day, you know, the goal for them should be to win the Olympics. And Jacob said after the race, yeah, his goal has been to win the Olympics for as long as he found out that the Olympics was the pinnacle of the sport. He's been training as a pro since he was about 9 or 10 years old. And to have it pay off and finally, you know, he is the champion. It's interesting, Robert. His father, Gert, said he didn't think that he's any more talented than Henrik or Philip, his two older brothers. He just said, you know, Gert, he trained them himself, and Henrik was basically an experiment. He was learning about how to coach. He didn't have a background in the sport. And the mistakes he made with Henrik and Philip, he was able to adjust the training for Jakob. And that is why Jakob's healthy. Henrik has had some injury issues, that sort of thing. It's pretty fascinating. But he said he didn't think he's any bigger of a talent. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but he knows a lot more about his sons than I do.
But I've read him in the past in articles where he said his like VO2 max was off the, you know, his economy and stuff was off the
Robert's
chart.
obsessed with this one article from one VO2 max they did when he was like 15 or something. He's obsessed with it. One other cool parallel, Jakob Ingebrigtsen and Sebastian Coe. Sebastian Coe, the 1980 and 1984 Olympic champion, the only man to repeat as Olympic champion. That's something that Ingebrigtsen will try for in Paris in 2024. Both of them coached by their fathers, and both of their fathers, neither of them had a background in track and field. They basically studied up once their sons showed some potential and coached them to the Olympic gold medal. That's a pretty cool club.
Okay, a couple things. People are enjoying your all squabble about names and whatnot. But Ingebrigtsen Jakob, he's the kid brother. I kind of think of these three brothers. He's a little bit younger. He's 8 years younger than Philip. I mean, think about that. So these two guys are pretty much like world-class runners. He's 13, 14. His dad's like probably run a lot. I kind of thought they were all brought up, but like, no, the dad really does have the opportunity to learn from the mistakes with the other one.
That can't be right. Well, they're not than Philip. Philip's the middle brother. You mean the eldest brother?
Well, I'm looking at World Athletics. It says Henrik's 30, Philip's 28, and Jakob's 20.
So, and they have another son. They have a younger brother who's 7? Or did he say 12?
7.
Uh-oh. What?
Yes, supposedly with all the same moms.
Should we
So
print
what
up
would that
shirts?
be? It would be
Should we print up
23.
shirts? Your move?
Oh, we should. But how could that be? The mom had kids 23 years apart?
It's possible.
Well, if you have a kid at like 20 and one at 43, that's feasible, right? I mean, this is kind of late in the game, but
yeah, this
God
guy
bless
came
him.
by the other day and installed some carpet, and he said he saw my daughter, and he started talking about his kids, and they were 20 years apart. And he goes, same wife, same wife. He wanted it to be known. So it is humanly possible. But if we're going to talk about the anticipation, getting out of the parking lot at the casino, I'm surprised Robert hasn't already gone there. Cole Hawker should have gone pro, right? I mean, it's finally now it's all over, right? It's finally ended.
Well, then, Robert in the mix zone before Cole Hawker came through, he's like, should have gone pro before the race. Just like, are you serious? At this point, you really think his value's gone down by running 6th? He gets 6th in the Olympics and runs 3:31 at age 20, and now shoe companies like, Oh yeah, chop another couple $100,000 off his contract. He should have medaled. No, come on, man.
You know, should
But
have. Like,
I've already thought about it. I
you-
want Hawker to stay in college. I think it's good for him. I don't think it's. I think he's going to go pro though. John, you talked to him. Did you kind of get that impression?
I asked him. I said, "What are your future plans?" And he just said, "Everyone will know in a couple weeks." And
So-
he just kind of had this wry smile. My guess is, yeah, he's turning pro.
Okay,
But
here-
what I would love
well-
to see, I just want to say, Robert, real quick. Here's my plea to Cole Hawker: run cross country for Oregon this fall. You and Cupertia,
Oh,
and then both of you turn pro after the cross country season, and you're pro athletes for the Worlds in Eugene in 2022.
John-
but I want to see Oregon make a run at the NCAA cross country title.
Oregon didn't even make cross country last year. They should be ashamed of that for number one.
Exactly. They need to redeem themselves.
I think we are kind of yelling, kind of loud. I think the neighbors might be up. But number two, this was my theory, and I can't believe John just stole it. I want Hawker to go back to college. I don't know if it's financially realistic. I was trying to figure out ways like to make him money so that he would stay in college, like this NIL thing.
NIL, he can the backup quarterback at some schools making $1 million a year
Well,
at
I know.
Alabama.
So
reportedly.
I saved my ticket. I should have gotten Ingebrigtsen to sign it. I've got my ticket. It's in mint condition. It's in my folder for tonight because there's only a few, 100 tickets made for this event. I was gonna have Hawker sign it and sell it for like $10,000.
Journalistic no right there, asking for autographs from.
I was gonna sell it to Hawker and give the money to him so he could stay at Oregon. Normally, I don't want to root for Oregon, but I want him to stay in college. I think the college experience is good. Like, here's my theory. John kind of took part of it. This is all of my idea, and I told him this, and he tried to act like it was his own idea.
I'm just saying that's what I want him to do. I'll give
I
you
want
credit.
With these new rules,
can
can he go pro in track and field? He signs a professional deal with Nike for track and field, and he stays in college for cross country. So he can run cross this year, he can run cross next year. It gives him something to do in the off season, and he's not going to be doing anything in October anyways.
I'd love to see it. I'm guessing,
but I do think that he should run cross in the fall for Oregon. And if you're his agent or if you're his father or his mother, this is the deal. He should sign through 2028. Very simple. Now, a shoe company may not want to do it, but Adidas throws stupid money at people all the time. It should be through 2028. It should be $5 million. That's a fair deal for him. Sidney McLaughlin's making twice that, but do the math. It's 7 years, 6 left, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 7 years for $700,000 a year.
He needs to go out and say, I want Hobbs Kessler money. Basically,
Hobbs Kessler money. Hobbs Kessler's never going to tattoo Cole Hawker.
Yeah, but the contract. Who do you think is going to get a bigger contract, Hobbs Kessler or Cole Hawker? I mean, I think Cole Hawker. I mean, he just got 6th at the Olympics in 3:31, but is he going to be able to get the same amount of money that Hobbs Kessler got? I'm not certain. He is 2 years older, so he should basically say, "Look, I smoked Hobbs Kessler. He didn't even make the trials final. I won the trials at 20. I was 6th in the Olympics at 20. I want Hobbs Kessler money."
Well, that shows it's all about anticipation. Hobbs, who? I don't even remember the guy. It's like what's he done recently? But he didn't even make the final of the trials, and we're thinking he deserves more money. I mean, it's absolutely nuts how this is done. It's all about the anticipation. But speaking
so we
of
asked the
anticipation,
Norwegian journalist, who's more famous, Warholm or Jacob? Someone said that Warholm was a little bit famous, but if Jacob won, he would be famous. But it was clear, the journalist today, he's like, it's not just Jacob. He's like, the Warholm clan is very famous because they have this reality TV show about all of them. So he said in mass that Jacob is more famous than Warholm. But, and I've never watched it. Apparently it's on YouTube with English closed captioning. But apparently there's a soccer player, John, that's way more famous.
Oh, Erling Haaland. Yeah. I mean, he's one of the best forwards in the world. So, yeah.
But
born in England, but plays for Norway.
But speaking of anticipation, there was another guy who talked a big game.
What?
In the 1,500 meters prior to the Olympics. Kind of fizzled out in the first round and came back with a medal. That is Josh Kerr of the Brooks Beast getting their first Olympic medal. And someone had a comment like, Brooks Beast Olympic medal, something. The Brooks Beast had never even had an Olympian before. True? Or an American Olympian. They may have had a foreign Olympian.
I don't think they've had an Olympian. Josh said today, I think I'm the first Olympian, right? Or did he
He
say
said
Olympic
first
final
Olympic finalist.
and first medalist? And yes, if the Brooks Beasts are listening on here, hey, there's a lot of insiders that have made fun of the Beast over the years and say, what are they doing? And I've always said, like, look, if you don't have, this sounds bad to the guys, the rest of the guys on the team. I mean, but look, if you don't have a talent, you're not going to get A results. It's like any of these groups, like, uh, and there's a lot of coaches that if you get a good big talent, you can coach it. And it was really interesting in the mix zone. I wish we could play the audio for you. So I was shocked because there was a message board thread about one of the runners yesterday. Someone's like, "Why does this group even?" I think it was it Puma? They said, "Why does?" Anyways, they're talking about somebody. Why does someone sponsor somebody if they don't even mention their sponsor's name? But you're not supposed to mention your sponsor's name at the Olympics. So one of the British guys asked. Well, first of all, they asked Josh about his coaching, and they asked about the Brooks. They're like, how important is Brooks to you? And he's like, am I allowed to say that? And the British lady was like, I forgot what she said. She's like,
she said yes, but I don't.
She's like, well, he asked it, and so then he tried not to say their name. He's like, he was being really funny. He was like, that company that you just mentioned is very important to me.
Is bloody awesome.
Yes,
bloody, is the word he used.
Bloody awesome. And then he said, but he's really high Danny Mackey. He's like, I mean, you would think Danny Mackey's coached the last 5 Olympic champions. He's like, he's a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the world. We talked to him. He's like, we changed some things. I don't know, in his running. I don't know what he did, like in his warm up or jogs, like how much he was going to do between the rounds after the first round debacle. He's like, I was the fastest loser. I got better every round. And I ran my best race of my life today. That's what you want to do. So kudos to them. But he did. Then he finally mentioned the word Brooks, and everyone laughed because he kind of said it by mistake. But yeah, it was cool to see them do so well. And
well, Robert, we got to remember Josh Kerr. He's a Cole Hawker type talent, or maybe we should say Cole Hawker's a Josh Kerr type talent, because
this is a great point, John. Great
Josh
point.
Kerr, if you guys remember, in 2017 when he was a redshirt freshman at New Mexico, he won NCAA indoors in the mile, just like Cole Hawker did. And then he won NCAA outdoors, and he beat Craig Engels to win that race in 2017. He was 19 years old, and he won the NCAA mile and 1500 titles. And then he made the British World Championships team at 19 years old. That takes a rare level of talent. He stuck it to Edward Cheserek over the last 600. Like, when I saw that race against Cheserek, I thought that guy has a kick that one day could win him a global medal. I really did think that, and I picked him to win in our Let's Run preview. Obviously, that was wrong. I think, honestly, if this was a slower race, Ingebrigtsen didn't want to say this. He said he could have won any race, and maybe that's true. He very well could have, but I think making it a 3:28 race, that takes out pretty much everyone from the equation, apart from Chariot. Maybe Jake Whiteman, I thought, could have run that today, but it eliminates someone like Hawker, and Josh Kerr makes Jake Whiteman didn't run well today, but he had run 3:29 coming in. Josh Kerr's POB was 3:31. So he essentially, what he told the journalist was he wanted to make an unpredictable race predictable. And I
thought that was a great line.
Yeah.
I want to make an unpredictable race greater. And he did. And he's like, he said flat out, I think if I did that, the worst I was going to get is silver. And that's 100% true. So that was cool that he said that. Other nuggets of wisdom from the press conference. Jacob, I think it is Jakob, actually, because I asked that Norwegian journalist that. He was talking to all they did a million TV interviews, and then they come to the written press, but he's talking in Norwegian to them forever. So we're talking to the dad in English. Dad's English is amazing, by the way. And we said, well, what was the race plan? The dad is the coach. He's like, I have no idea what the race plan is. We're like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm not allowed to get that.
This is great.
He's like, Jacob won't give it to me. We're like, we should have asked Jacob this. Like, we understand you. We mentioned that the dad said you wouldn't give him the race plan, but like, you can't do that in any other coach. Like, if Danny Mackey asks Craig, Josh Kerr, actually Danny Mackey probably tells Josh Kerr what the race plan is. Here, it's like father son. Like any teenager, I guess he's 20 now. It's like, fuck you, Dad. So he's like, what he say? He's like, I've got a plan. It makes me nervous to tell you, or I forgot what he said. But he didn't want to tell his dad the plan. He didn't tell the dad the plan. There was a rationale for why he didn't tell him. But
yeah, here's the quote, Robert. Gert said, "I'm not allowed to talk with Jacob about tactics. He said, this is my race, and I don't want you to interfere to mix up my head." So he decides for himself.
So the coach is saying I'm not allowed to talk about it. So parents, all you parents trying to dictate to your kids, sometimes if you let your kids dictate to you, hey, great things will happen. So I was fascinated by that. And I forgot what Jakob said about his plan. He just said, yeah, he wanted to make it fast, make sure it was fast. He didn't seem worried. And the one thing I didn't quite get though, like, there was no big reaction. I wish like he said he was happy, but is he always this understated? Like, or is it more of a relief? Like there's so much pressure. He thinks this is going to happen. It's kind of like McLaughlin. She had a very similar reaction. Like, everyone's been saying they're going to win this. I wish they would enjoy it a little bit more.
It's all about expectations. I think a lot of times when people get to the top, they don't know. They're like, wait, when I wake up today, the world isn't that much different. I remember when Barack Obama got elected president. I woke up the next day. I was in business school, sort of walking across the green, and I'm like, birds are still chirping. Everything's, it's not radically different. The world didn't change. Now, granted, he wasn't president yet, but I think just a lot of times you have all this expectation. You're going to win the gold medal. Your life's going to instantaneously change. Yes, sure, stuff changes, but it's like, wait, a lot's still the same. A little more about, I'm interested in what you guys think about Cole in the race, and he made any comments about the pace. What happened was my fear. What would happen was that he couldn't handle a 3:30 race. Did you guys bring that up with him? Do you think anything else happened? I think it was just too hot. Like, his body's never done that. To ask a guy to try to run 4 seconds faster than he's ever run before is almost. I mean, if he were able to pull that off, he would be the favorite for the next Olympics gold medal. I mean, I might think he could break the world record next year or something like that. That's the amount of talent that would indicate.
Yeah, no, I asked him about that. I asked him what he thought of his race. He said he was very happy with it. 3:31. Remember, his personal best coming into this meet was 3:33. Sorry, 3:35. He ran 3:33 in the semis, 3:31 in the final, 6th place at 20 years old. It's a very impressive run. And I asked him, what did he think he could run going in? He said, I thought about 3:30. He's a second off of that. And he admitted, he said, look, his biggest strength is his kick. But when you're running that fast, when you're running at your absolute limit for a 1,500 meters, you just basically can't rely on also closing your final 150 really fast. And so it was smart of what Chariot and, like I said earlier, what Chariot and Ingebrigtsen did. You take the sting out of the kick of someone like Hawker, and were they totally worried about Cole Hawker? No, but Chariot usually runs like this, so I don't think it's like, oh, Cole Hawker's in the race, I have to run this way. But he knew about it. He knew about his kick. And yeah, I think Cole Hawker, if this was a more traditional 1,500 final, maybe, the last two World Olympics have been running 3:29, 3:28. Maybe this is the new normal. But if this was a more tactical final, I think he absolutely could have medaled. This race scenario, though, was going to be very tough for him to medal because he needed to run 3:29 low to medal.
Yeah, I didn't talk to him, but the only thing we joked. I mean, we kind of joked, but I was kind of serious too. Like, it wasn't as exciting to watch as I anticipated. But if we're gonna go negative, if I'm a shoe exec, although I heard Wheating got $750,000 a year when he came out. That's why I'm saying Hawker should shoot for something like that. But Andrew Wheating ran faster. I know he's a year or two older. That summer after he was at Oregon, he ran 3:30. Now, it wasn't after 3 races, obviously. It was much better. It was probably better conditions, etc. One of the YouTube people wants to know, was Jacob's plan to make it fast and dupe Chariot to take the lead? That's what I was saying. I thought Chariot should dupe Jacob to take the lead. But it was interesting to me that when I talked to McCall, the 5th placer, he was just impressed by, he's like, what's impressed me about Jacob, he's like, he set a European record, but he's like, he didn't seem to care. He's like, the confidence these guys run with. I don't think either one of them really, they didn't seem bothered by having to lead. Like, most people are stressed out. It's like, no, we're better than everybody else. I'm just going to go out and run from the front. So look, one thing we have not mentioned, and it's got to be negative, but we talked about the father-son combos. This would have been one of the father-son combos. I was so excited about this. Jake Whiteman, he looked amazing in all the other rounds. Josh Kerr had not looked amazing in all these other rounds. Nick Willis, the two-time medalist, went to YouTube like about 3 hours before the race and broke down the race, very similar to the way that we did. We had 6 potential gold medalists, 3 from the first heat, 3 from the second heat. He had 5. He had
everyone we had except for Josh Kerr.
Except for,
even you guys sort of disputed my claim that Josh Kerr could still medal, but
yeah, well, he was talking about gold medal, and then he said Stewie McSwain could medal if it was super fast. So he didn't have, and Nick Willis actually picked Cole Hawker to get second. He had Ingebrigtsen winning, Hawker second, and
Abel Kipsang third.
So he wasn't, So
okay, this makes me feel better.
Anyways,
he thought the race was going to be sub 3:30 and Cole Hawker would medal. Nick Willis thought this. And he didn't think Josh Kerr could medal? I just think it shows we get these things in our head that are just not accurate. I was so accurate in my Molly Seidel
it's interesting. Why would Willis think that Hawker would handle the super fast pace? That's a good point. But anyways, Jake Whiteman had looked amazing in the semifinal. He had won it over Chariot and Hawker. And he just, I don't know. I think you almost have to give him an F for today. What did he get?
He was 10th in 3:35.
It was a disaster. His dad was the Olympic announcer. It would have been one of the coolest things ever and his coach, if he'd won this. So we talk about the father of some coaches. Got to wait 3 more years, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in the 1500? We did have, Sifan Hassan ran one of the most ridiculous triples I've ever seen. We haven't really mentioned it much on the podcast. So, and I need to get some sleep before this Olympic marathon starts in 4.5 hours. So shall we go on to Sifan, part 3, medal number 3, gold medal number 2, winning the 10,000. There isn't that much to say about the race itself. It pretty much played out how we thought it would. Letesenbet Gide, the world record holder, the onus was on her to make it fast in an attempt to drop Sifan Hassan before the bell. I said if Sifan Hassan was still there at the bell, it was game over. I'm actually surprised it wasn't game over until 50 meters to go. And it wasn't Gide. It was instead Bahrain's Kalkadon Gezahegne, who hung with them. It was Gide, Sifan Hassan, and Gezahegne at the bell. And then Hassan sort of made the move with 200, on the back straight. And she didn't get the gap on Gezahegne until about halfway down the home straight is when she really started to separate. 1, 2, 3 for Ethiopian-born athletes. Only Gide is representing Ethiopia. But basically what it came down to, Sifan Hassan's a 351 woman. She was bronze in the individual 1500. If it comes down to a kick in this 10K, even with all those races in her legs, she's still got the best kick, and that's what happened. Even, 30 flat pace just isn't going to drop Sifan Hassan.
It came closer than she thinks, though. She basically got to a mile to go, good day, right, and just ran out of steam and couldn't lead anymore, and just the pace dragged. But Hassan said afterwards, she's like, something was wrong. My neck was screwed up. I almost passed out there. So she's like, that's why I only took the lead with 100 to go. So I think Gade was closer to breaking her than she realized. And I couldn't figure out why the Americans were so far back, but it's because they were running PR pace in absolutely oppressive conditions for the first half. So, one of the funniest things happened in the mix-up. Well, it wasn't really funny, but it was kind of it was kind of funny. There's these non-sports reporters trying to get these either political stories or kind of human interest, and some woke reporters Sifan. This is the first question that she's getting in the mix zone in front of the English press. It's Sifan, the top 3 runners were all Ethiopian-born runners. What does this mean for the struggle at home? There's some, there's a civil war or some sort of political unrest in Ethiopia. Sifan Hassan doesn't really hear the question because you got to stay 6 feet apart. It's kind of loud in there. She hears the words 3 Ethiopians in struggle, and she then proceeds to explain why the Ethiopians didn't do well in this meet. And not talking about her, the actual people running for Ethiopia. She's like, well, I don't think they're prepared for the heat. It's not hot and humid like it is here in Ethiopia. They need to prepare for the heat. By the way, that might have helped the marathoners. So it was very funny how she answered that. My only thought on the 10,000 was halfway through it pissed me off because I like G'day, and I'm like, it's a disgrace that World Athletics won't let her wear the super shoes. I'm a critic of the super shoes, but this woman ran a 44:20 on the roads. Maybe she's a super responder to it. Maybe one of the greatest performances in women's running history. She should be allowed to wear the super shoes in this race. She should not have to wear spikes. This is absurd. If you're going to allow it in the marathon, let it be run on the track.
Yeah, it is kind of a double standard. Speaking of Ethiopia, Robert, I mean, this was a horrific day for their distance runners. Gide, who everyone thought was at least going to get the silver,
Horrific day.
gets the. Let me get to my point. Gets the bronze medal. Actually, Helen Obiri, I thought, could have beaten Gide. She ran a personal best in fourth place. Did Obiri 30:24. But yeah, Gide gets the bronze. But then the other two Ethiopians, Sige Gebresalama, it looked like she lost her shoe or something. Then she was sitting on the side of the track. She dropped out. And then the third Ethiopian in that race, Sehe Gemachu, DNF.
DQ.
And then DQ, sorry. And then in the marathon, Rosa Dereje fourth, misses out on a medal. And the other two Ethiopians, Bahan Dababa and Zainaba Yima, DNF. So of the 6 women they had going in distance finals today, 4 of them failed to finish the race. 1 of them got a medal. It was a bronze. I think they probably would have expected more than that going in.
I don't like these theories that when people, I mean, I do think Ethiopia could prepare better for the humidity, but the 10K women besides Gide, we should acknowledge Gide is the world record holder. So I guess her getting the bronze is kind of surprising, but she did all the work. I actually didn't figure out what the last 1500 was in this race. It was 3:59 2 years ago. So, but it was nowhere close to that today. But
well, that was the whole thing. It was super slow at the end. Did you guys ask her what the hell happened? What did she say?
The two 10,000 runners, the two other 10,000 runners were almost laughed at the trials. What did she say? She said something about her. Hassan said, we said, when were you unsure? She's like, I was. She's like, normally the first 3K of a 10K feels easy to me in a championship. It feels like a jog. She's like, it felt like I was sprinting from all out. I had doubt the entire time until I crossed the finish line. She said something about her neck. Did you hear that part?
I wasn't talking to her. Well, I think it's fairly simple what happened. Hassan was trying to break. Sorry, Gide was trying to break Hassan.
And once she couldn't do it.
She couldn't do it, and then she started running out of gas herself. She'd been trying to lead this thing and break her from the front, and then she started getting tired and slowing down. And Hassan wasn't going to pass her because why would she? So that's why it slowed down. I'm sure if Gide was capable of going faster, she would have.
Yeah, but with about a mile to go, Gide looked over her shoulder and said something to Hassan. Did you guys know what she said?
I forgot. We should have asked that.
Yeah, that was a good question because you could see she was making sort of like the expressions like that, and she seemed a little upset. So I'm not certain what happened there.
And also, it was just fascinating because she started crunching the pace. I mean, they were running pretty much 70 from right before halfway all the way to a mile to go. And then they start running 74s. I mean, I think she realized, she's like, I'm not going to make it to the finish. I can't do this. I think she did everything humanly possible to break Hassan. Hassan almost broke, and then that was that. And Hassan, you guys probably didn't see this, but talking about the neck thing, when she talked to Lewis Johnson on NBC afterwards, she said, because she needed help on the track. They brought her ice. I thought, oh my God, I have to cart her out of here, but she recovered. And she said, oh, I was thinking of the guy who broke 4 minutes in the mile, and then she said something about her neck. But if you look at Bannister in that race, he's like, his neck is kind of creamed off. And then afterwards, he's like this. So I wonder if somehow her neck started hurting and she thought of Roger Bannister and was inspired to her gold medal. But I thought that was pretty cool. Woman born in Ethiopia, now running for the Netherlands, born in, how old is she now, John?
Hassan?
Yeah.
She was born in January 1st, 1993, so she would be 28 years old now. If you believe that birthday.
Yeah, well, the January 1st is the birthday you pick when you don't know your birthday.
Right.
But that's, I don't know, it's just a cool story, inspired by Roger Bannister.
Now, Tim Robbery, greatest coach of all time, 3 Olympic medals.
Yeah. So I was seeing somebody saying, Jonathan Green is now the greatest marathon coach in America. Tim Robbery could be the greatest coach in America. I mean, if you have the big talent, you're the greatest coach. Although John and I did go to the gold medal game, I was very impressed by Team USA. I love the way they play. It was a lot of fun to watch the basketball game.
International basketball is super quick. There's no timeouts, nothing. It like zips through.
It was great. I loved it. Like the timeout. No, they do have a couple timeouts, but they're 30 seconds. It's just there and done. They don't have all these obnoxious replay reviews.
Well, why don't they go timeout?
There's no goaltending, or there's no. Sorry, what? No, the rule is once the ball hits the rim, it's live. So there was like a free throw that hit the rim, and then as soon as it hits the rim and bounces up, Draymond Green just gets in there and smacks it away. And it was like, it's so much more interesting with that as opposed to the NBA rules where you have to wait for it to clear the cylinder. So it was a fun watch, and the game was, France could never quite get in there. They airballed some threes at the end when they had a chance to make it interesting. But it's fun to go there.
John says they didn't make it interesting. What do you mean? They were shooting for the tie in the last minute.
They weren't shooting for the tie. They were shooting to bring it within 3, and they couldn't get there.
They got it within 3.
Yeah, but then immediately the USA got to make their free throws, and Durant put it out of reach. Like it was never like, oh man, if France makes this, we're going to overtime, But that was a fun excursion.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys got to go to that. My other observation was they call traveling and they call foul. So it's, I don't know, it's a less physical game. The goaltending thing was nuts. I didn't know that, but that's why I'm going to be tired tonight, because I watched that, then I watched golf, and then I was like, oh my God, I got to be up in 5 hours.
Okay.
So
10K, anything else on the 10K? Or should we talk relays?
Do we want to do
gold medal in the Javelin?
Wait. I didn't know this. I didn't even know this until I got on the show. I was really into this. When I do the website twice a night, I find website articles on track and field all over. India had never won a gold in any Olympic event, or is it just track and field?
Just track and field.
They hardly won any golds. They had some guy, though. He was only seeded like 4th. I was reading actually a Javelin preview, and he's kind of friends with the guy who was supposed to win, but the guy who was supposed to win bombed and got like 12th, and some India guy wins it. I didn't even know this.
The Javelin is maybe the most universal event. I love where the people who win the Javelin come from.
This is crazy.
Here's a list of recent Javelin global champions. 2012, Keshawn Walcott, Trinidad and Tobago. 2015, Julius Yego, Kenya. 2019, Anderson Peters, Grenada. And 2021, Neeraj Chopra, India. Now, you have had a couple Germans, Thomas Roller and Johannes Vetter, sprinkled in there. But how amazing is that? Basically, if you're from anywhere in the world, you can pick up the Javelin and produce a champion. I think it's an awesome story. One of probably the most universal event in all of track and field.
Yeah, it was crazy. And on one broadcast I was watching, they were saying it's their first gold in like 100 and something years. And then so I was looking up that guy in Wikipedia, and they're like, oh, he may have been Scottish or something. But this is the first. The other guy really wasn't Indian, I don't think. But pretty crazy. Do we want to? We can save probably the talk of like, where does this rank Hassan and the GOAT? I don't think we have to go there today. But let's just say a couple words. She went for greatness at these Olympics, and she got it. And I don't know. I mean, you do need the external validation for people to notice. If she doesn't get the 2 golds, the bookend golds, a lot of people are like, oh, is this a mistake? Absolutely not. In my mind, she got 1 gold. She's going to get, I mean, let's say she got a bronze today. I still think a gold, a bronze, and I guess it'd be 2 bronzes, is better than, I don't know, 2 golds. I don't know. I just think it's cool. She went for it. She wanted to do it. She went for greatness. She wasn't afraid to lose. I think a lot more athletes need to have that mindset, because we're seeing that they don't.
Yeah, no, I totally applauded it. She made the distance races on the women's side at the Olympics just so much more exciting. Like every time Hassan was on the track, I'm just like, I'm watching this race. I'm glued to this race. I want to see what happens. She even made somehow a first round race in the women's 1500 interesting, which is kind of rare because usually the favorites always make it through. And, she falls at the bell and still gets up. So that was a ton of fun watching her. And, I'm fascinated to see what she tries next. I mean, she was saying after she won the gold in the 5K, she had initially considered doing the 800 10K double. So I'm just saying it now. If Safan Hassan tells World Athletics she wants to do the 800 10K in Eugene next year, they need to change the schedule and make it happen, because I want to see that. I want to see I don't think she could beat a thing Mo, but I want to see her try the 800 10K, because how freaking nuts would that be?
That would be nuts. I mean, absolutely nuts.
Somebody was saying on the chat that Ethiopia had a terrible Olympics. I was thinking Kenya was going to have a terrible Olympics, like midway through this thing, but Kenya ended up winning 7 medals. Ethiopia is technically not, this is not counting the marathon, I don't think. Ethiopia has won 4, but if you count Hassan, it's 7.
Well, we should talk about the American men not having a great Olympics, because for the first time ever, and this doesn't count the 1980s.
See, I don't like this talk. I don't like to be negative.
Well, I think we need to be factual. For the first time ever outside the 1980 boycott, they do not have an individual Olympic champion in a running event. And
what about the marathon? I think, what about the marathon?
Oh, sorry, track.
That
event,
way, if Rupp wins, I'm going to play that clip right there, and I'm not going to.
I'm sorry, I should have said track event. I should have specified it. They did win the 4x4 with a very impressive ankle leg by Rai Benjamin, but America's kind of expected to win the 4x4 every year, even though they didn't in 2012. I don't know. It's interesting because before the Olympics, I got a DM from someone who at the Ringer, actually thinking about doing a podcast, and they said, I wanted to talk to you about the possibility that USA wins the 100, 200, and 400 at the Olympics. You know, it could happen, right? And I was like, absolutely, it could happen. They should win the 100. They should probably win the 200. And I think they have a decent shot to win the 400. And I was looking at the hurdle events. I'm like, hell, they could sweep all the sprints. They're going to win the 110 hurdles for sure. And then the 400 hurdles, yes, Benjamin was a slight underdog to Warholm, but he could have won as well. And what ended up happening was Benjamin ran the race of his life. He just happened to get beaten by one of the greatest performances in the history of track and field. Holloway ran okay, but not good enough to win the gold medal and got upset. And then the 100, Bromell, I still don't really know what happened to Bromell. Total underperformance. DeGrasse ran great in the 200. Lyles underperformed a little. And the 400, Michael Norman, I don't know what's going on. So, yeah, it was underperformed. But you got to put some of this stuff in context. Like Cole Hawker 6th, that's a good run for Cole Hawker. You know, Grant Fisher 5th in the 10K. Like some of these guys, some of the stars underperformed, but some of these other guys got closer than I thought they would get to a medal. So it's not all disaster. But and then the other thing I wanted to talk about, the women's 4x4. Are we ever going to see a more star-studded relay team than the one the U.S. threw out for this women's 4x4? I was hoping they would run this lineup the whole of Olympics, and they did it. And props to Mike Holloway or Oren Richburg or whoever selected this relay team, because I don't know if we're ever going to see this before. Have we ever seen this? 4 individual Olympic gold medalists on the same relay team. Sydney McLaughlin, Allison Felix, Dalilah Muhammad, and Athing Mo. They won the 4x4 by a mile, 3:16.85. I just loved seeing this. You've got Felix and Mo, the 35-year-old and the 19-year-old crossing over. All of these women, they're saying Felix is basically the face of the sport. McLaughlin and Mo, they could be the future faces of the sport. They're all sort of crossing over in this point in time with a brilliant performance to win the Olympic gold medal. I just thought it was awesome. I'm going to be remembering watching those 4 run on a relay together. And yeah, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever see 4 Olympic gold medalists, individual events, all on the same relay team again.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I mean, I think it's crazy that the world record is 32 years old or 33 years old now. And I was looking at the names. I'm like, those people aren't as famous. But to get the record, I mean, everybody's got to be running 48 point. And I think only one person did today. I don't know. I was kind of surprised. I thought they might go a little bit faster. But someone's pointing out in the chat, do you guys feel for Quinera Hayes? She makes the Olympic final, finishes last in, 50.88. well, another woman didn't finish, and then they don't put her on the relay team. She didn't get to run the round, so she's not a gold medalist. So if you're her, would you rather come to games, run the mixed relay, maybe get a gold medal, or would you rather do what she did? I mean, long term, you probably want to tell people I'm an Olympic gold medalist.
I feel bad for her, Weldon, but also I'm fairly confident that the 4 women who ran the relay tonight are the 4 fastest 400-meter runners in the United States right now. And it's unfortunate for Quanera Hayes. She is the U.S. champion. She beat Felix at the Olympic trials, but she got beat by Felix in the Olympic final. And do I think Sydney McLaughlin, Dalil Muhammad, and Athing Mo would have beaten her in that race as well? Yes, I do. So I think she's the 5th best 400 runner in the United States at this moment. And that's why she wasn't on the relay. Should she have been in the prelims? Yeah, she probably should have to get her a gold medal. I think that's a little, she deserves a gold medal to be in that prelims team. But I don't think she should have been running the final tonight.
No, I'm talking about the prelims. I mean, they didn't let her run the prelim. Now, the prelim was, I think, the day after the 400. So maybe they thought that was too soon to come back. She could get injured. You're playing it safe. We're going to save you as an alternate for the final.
What do you mean? She want to run the prelim or not, Weldon?
I don't know what she wanted to do. All I know is she didn't run. She is not a gold medalist. And some of these women who are like way behind her at the USAs are now gold medalists. A 50.8 open is probably faster than some of these other women could run.
Also, Weldon, can we point this out? We've had a couple comments in the chat, so I just looked up the splits. Holy shit, Athing Mo. What do you think she anchored this relay in, Weldon?
That was like 48.3.
Yeah, 48.32. I mean, she's run 49.54 in the open, but holy shit. I mean, 48.32 is a 19-year-old anchoring the Olympic 4x4. That's just freaking insane.
So where do you find the splits, John?
I went to the MyInfo site. It's not like, here's the problem. You go on the World Athletics website, you click on the race, it doesn't give you the splits. Like, this is World Athletics. Get your shit together. People will go on there. How hard is it to have the results? The NCAA, every race, you get every split.
Flash Results does a way better job at a college meet.
But, I mean, it's weird because for the Olympics, a lot of the races on World Athletics at the bottom, it's got 100-meter splits for everybody. Yet for a 4x4, I can't just see the splits of the runners. I mean, like, come on.
It's ridiculous.
Where do they get the 100-meter splits?
I assume there's some chip or something.
Yeah, 3:16. I'd like to look up the all-time times because the world record is like 3:15 by the Soviet Union back in.
Robert, stop! Oh my God, Robert's tired.
Some guy's saying I look wasted. I'm just tired.
Clearly, you're showing it now.
He is 3 beers in. And
no, I'm not.
So, well, hold on. What's this?
That's not beer.
What is this?
I don't know what it is, but it's not beer.
Thing? All right, he's 2 beers in. Never mind.
I'm just tired. John's going off about some pointless, dumb point.
What do you?
Okay, I need some advice, people. I could potentially win the running warehouse prediction contest. I could only tie. I need 8 points in the marathon. So, should I look? I have to go 1, 2, 3, and I have to have a perfect top 3, and I have to have 3 people that the winning person in the contest doesn't have. So, should I go in and change my picks and go for the gold? But if I do that, I'm unlikely to get any of those picks, and then Jonathan could beat me in our individual group and claim that he's better than me, which we all know is not true.
Well, I mean, if I beat you in the contest,
no, you don't.
That's not a claim. That is a definitive.
No, you've been running like a coward, I've been running for the gold the whole time.
I picked freaking Josh Kerr to win the 1500. That's not a coward's pick.
You didn't pick that in the running warehouse prediction contest.
I absolutely did.
No, you did not.
I will show you for a fact that's what I picked, Robert.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did.
No, that was dumb then.
So I had that backwards, actually. The 4x4 round, somebody pointed this out in the chat, was the day before the 400 final.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Why should
here's a new rule, I think. What about this? Because the IAAF's going to adopt, World Athletics. They're going to adopt my other rule of putting a hurdle right on the finish in the 400-meter hurdles. Make it way more interesting.
Wait, did we not win we didn't win the mixed relay? What happened to that? I forgot.
They ran the D team and they got beat by Poland.
Yeah. We got second?
And they got beat by Dominican Republic. They got third. because Dominican Republic had the individual silver medalists in the
Look,
400.
now that's a solvable solution.
Josh Kerr, right there, read him weep. I did pick him for gold, Robert.
Mistake. John had all
So
three
what-
medalists in the wrong order. So this is interesting to me. If we want to win more medals, particularly in the mixed gender, like Steven Schwartzman should just put up $50,000 if you're on the relay team.
Well, here's my other rule. You have to run the same team in all the rounds.
I don't like that.
The
I don't
U.S.
like-
has too much depth. It's unfair. We have it's like we can cycle in different people. These other countries are like people are tired. I mean, you could argue our people are making the finals and their people aren't, but I don't know.
So these other countries, the guys ran the relay before the final?
Will be
I'm
interesting.
guessing
Did
only
anyone
eight
in the
people
4x4 final for women? Was the
Only
men
for
the
women,
same
though?
way?
Men were done? That's weird.
Let's see. Yeah, the men's was the day before. I wonder if anyone ran women's 4x4 and then the 400 final the next day.
But was the marathon time start moved up again? I hope not.
No. 4 hours from shit. It's 4 hours from now. All right, we need to wrap this thing up.
Why do I
We
need to
got
watch it? I'm going to sleep.
1:31.
I think I'm going to sleep in.
Yeah, I mean, do I need to watch the first hour? I can kind of wake up at the halfway point, right?
That's what we did in Rio, John. I was like, let's
No, it's
sleep.
not. I in Rio, I was there from the start, right?
I feel like we tried to get there an hour in. Maybe that I proposed that and you shot it down.
I thought we got there. I mean, maybe I don't think we saw them actually like leave the start line, but I think we were there within a few minutes of the start. And even though we got there, the whole the media center was already full by the time we got there.
Oh, by the way, speaking of the press center, John, I've never seen anything like it. The most packed thing was there was like 1,000 journalists wanting to talk to the guy who bombed in the Javelin and was supposed to win and did terrible. I don't know why. He was so popular.
Johannes Vedder, he was, yeah, that was. The
And I
biggest
didn't.
crowd I've
How
seen
did I
for a
not
while.
know about this Indian guy? How come John didn't tell me about it?
I just thought you were watching the meet and you would know. What's
I don't have
going on.
time.
Like, Robert's like
I'm actually interviewing people. John's on Twitter, finding out what's happening in the
saying,
stadium.
you know, Robert, why didn't you tell me about this? Why didn't you tell me about this thing that happened at the meet?
Okay,
Like,
we got to give the fans, like, what's this thing tomorrow? Robert, when do you fly out? John, when do you fly out?
Okay, I feel bad. Like, people want to know why the Olympics is so expensive. I could do it for half the price. Like, they build these giant stadiums, they have all these press rooms. They let us go in there. Instead, we could have taken, like, you take a shuttle to this one area, then another shuttle to the Olympics to go to watch the basketball game. Remember, there's no fans. There's no reason really why John and I need to go to the Olympic basketball game, except for they know that if the journalists are treated well, they're going to want to come to the Olympics and promote it in the years to come. So we go out there. And our taxi guy waited for us the whole time, apparently, while we were at the game and then came us back. John did the math. We had free vouchers. They spent $250 on our taxi today that we did not pay for. And John's like, tomorrow I want to take a cab to save the organizing committee money. Instead, John's like, no, they gave me 14 vouchers. Just take a voucher to the airport. The airport's like 2 hours away from here.
they gave us $1,400 worth
No.
of cab
Vouchers.
cab vouchers to use. And Robert, out of principle, refuses to use it and is going to
See?
be making these bus transfers.
That's my
to
conservative
the
roots,
airport
people.
instead.
I'm going to start a new political party. the Road
Conservative
Trip Party.
roots, you should go sell them, black market. You guys like found a speakeasy or something the other day. Whatever that place is, go knock on the door and say, hey, I got these vouchers. You know, how much do you guys want to pay for them?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I'm
So,
not
Robert,
gonna
when
do
do you
that.
leave tomorrow? John, when do you leave?
I don't know. I leave at like 6 p.m., I think.
Yeah, I don't leave till Monday around.
But I may have to
like
leave
5
here.
PM,
I think I have to leave
so-
here around 1, maybe.
The problem is, like Weldon, if you remember in Rio, we had the marathon on the final day, and then in the evening we went to this nice steakhouse. We had a nice dinner. I think we saw the notorious Federico Rosa, the agent. He was at the same steakhouse, and it was just a nice little calm way to end the Olympics. Then the next day we went to Sugarloaf before our flights home. It was fun, and I was hoping. I'm like, all right, after the marathon tomorrow, what can I do? How can I enjoy the city? Oh wait, I haven't been in the country 14 days yet. I can't do anything. So I think probably what I'm going to be doing tomorrow is I'll pick up some beer from the convenience store. I'll try to find the nicest Uber Eats order I can do, and I'll have myself a nice little dinner and probably watch watch Japanese TV or something. It's kind of sad.
Well,
Seth
it's gonna be
wants to know
really
why we
depressing
need
for you,
deductions
John.
to walk to the
Robert will be
stadium.
gone to be by yourself. Are there any other journalists, anyone you can hang out with your hotel?
Carl Dennehy is here.
See-
But he said he's been here 14 days. He doesn't have to do the quarantine stuff. So he's going to actually go out and have some fun or do something. And I'm just going to be sitting in my room
Well,
like Steven Glansberg.
This is why John's single. I've let all the other female journalists know that John's going to be here by himself. He's got an expansive hotel room to himself. I will be gone. I won't know what's going on. What happens in Tokyo stays in Tokyo. And John's like going to the convenience store alone. I mean, again, you can lead that horse to water. You can't make him drink. Somebody wants to know why we didn't use the vouchers for the stadium. A, it's kind of lazy. We did use it one day. It took almost as long. Like, it saved us the walking, but it only saved us maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's really only a 25-minute walk to the stadium.
Yeah, it
Maybe
takes
30 minutes.
It lets you in a different entrance to the stadium where you actually have to walk for a longer distance once you get through the entrance. So it wasn't a great efficient use of our time, really. And yeah.
Well, so let's see. I'm trying to think about the time.
I thought of several.
Will there be a
people
marathon show tomorrow? I'm not sure, John. No, you'll be
we
asleep.
I mean, Weldon, I'll do a marathon show with you. Robert, I'm not sure when your flight is.
We'll have to do it tonight or something? I'm confused.
Should we do it right now?
Oh, actually, Weldon.
Dalen Rupp is one. I think he's going to win gold.
We'll just do two versions. One Rupp medals, one doesn't. We'll just do it right now. Everyone in the chat, don't pretend we
I think he won gold. I think Bob's going to bomb. I'm going to say both, and then John can play a clip by the time I wake up.
Weldon, you're going to feel. Well, I'm trying to think. The marathon starts at 6 p.m. We'll probably be done writing the article around 10 or 11. I mean, I'm going to make you stay up late to do the podcast, just like you've been having us stay up late every day in Tokyo. You'll get a taste of what we've been doing.
I mean, last Olympics I got pneumonia because of the marathon, so I feel for you guys today. And tomorrow, last night for me was the least amount of sleep I got. And I texted my wife. She was already asleep. I'm like, oh my God, we forgot to talk about this weekend. But I assume you can watch Cece right now until she sleeps. I got to get this podcast turned around because once she wakes up, I got to watch her. My wife has already instructed me. Tomorrow, I'm sleeping in. She's sleeping in. I'm like, whoa, man, I'm going to be up late tonight.
Now, the storybook ending, I always do think that the home team needs like a big moment. Now, they won softball and baseball today, which is good for Japan. But if Seguro Osaka wins the gold, that's what they'll go crazy about. Oh, by the way, we did a live show on the way to the stadium today, like 10 minutes. And as we were doing it, some rando guy, some Japanese guy's like, let's run. Are you let's run? And we said, yes. I hope if you any Japanese listeners, they're probably not up at 3 a.m. Never mind. I was going to give you a free T-shirt because I brought a lot of shirts and haven't given any of them away.
And it's unfortunate for all the visitors out there. There's a Let'sRun.com Japan. There's this guy and his wife, and they translate Let's Run into Japanese. We were going to meet up during the Olympics, but we couldn't because of COVID.
Yeah.
By the way, well, we're going to ask you the same question I asked John. He did the same answer. If I put a gun to your head, which of the three Olympic men's 1500 medalists are you most confident is clean?
Kerr?
That's what we both said.
Yeah, the same answer. Yeah.
We're not saying we think the other two are dirty.
Yeah, no.
But
the worse you are, the more likely you're clean, right? I mean,
yeah. and actually, Jacob's dad had a long talk about this is good for Europeans, and supposedly he was really upset about Katir and Monaco, but it's like, wait, is he protesting too much? He was talking about how the sport's getting cleaned up, and this is a sign for Europeans, and blah blah blah. So it was good stuff.
All right. Well, we could play a fun game where we spend the next 5 minutes guessing which crazy innovation Galen Rupp's going to introduce for the Olympic marathon, because he's going to have some sort of new thing that no one's seen yet that he brings. But I'd rather just take a shower and go to bed because the race starts in less than 4 hours.
Galen Rupp, medal, yes or no?
Yes.
See, Robert's like me, doesn't want to go on the record.
He should. I don't know why he wouldn't. I didn't pick him in the contest, but
okay, I'm going to say no, but with a caveat: if he medals, it's a gold medal. John, gold medal, yes or no?
What are the odds?
I'd say no on the gold medal, but it's It's possible. It's not impossible. It's possible that he wins the gold medal.
I just don't. Yeah, it's possible, but
Well, if Kipchoge's not doing well, we know that's one.
he's
Who's
great in the
third
heat,
Kenyan?
though. I mean, he's 10 times the runner Molly Seidel is.
Who's the third
not
time?
anymore,
Who's the
but-
third Kenyan?
Amos Kipruto. Actually, Amos Kipruto is the one that
Well, we heard of.
we
He's in
heard,
Hassan.
from the mixed zone rumblings. Amos Kipruto is the one who actually sounds like he's been doing pretty well and might be the best threat for the Kenyans. So we'll see.
All right,
right.
guys, gals, John, Robert. I guess Robert probably won't be seeing you anymore till you get back. Travel safely. Do not get hit by cars. Signing off from America.
Wait, so we're gonna pick Amos Caputo's